Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I just wanted to go over the top 10 things I love about my sur-ron. I've had this for about 3 months now. Been ripping it all around through summer, and there's been some surprising benefits to having one that I was unaware of that I'm glad I figured out. And so if you're in the market of maybe thinking of getting one of these, maybe this will be an added benefit of getting one yourself. So hope you enjoy. All right, so first thing is low noise. I can't say no noise, but very low noise. All you can really hear is the chain and a little bit of a belt whine. Like I said, I can't say it's no noise, but definitely a lot quieter than my old 2-stroke 450 dirt bikes or even 4-strokes, which are just obnoxious. And you know, not to say I don't like regular gas dirt bikes, those have a really cool place and I've had many of them throughout my life, but having an electric thing, a bike, I can ride it around my neighborhood without pissing off the neighbors. I can run to the store and grab some groceries if I want, and it doesn't just, disrupt the entire neighborhood. Another thing I like is I take my dogs out every day and they're not afraid of it because it doesn't make much noise. So it's a great way to exercise them around the park. I run them usually like 3 or 4 miles. It's really not much work for me because I'm riding on this thing and they love to run and chase me and all that jazz. So there's this trail near my house called the BPA Trail. It's like 10 miles long. It goes underneath some power lines. There's dirt paths and then, a paved area. You're not technically supposed to have motorized vehicles of any kind, but I see people on electric scooters and things all the time. And again, because this isn't obnoxiously loud like a 2-stroke or 4-stroke dirt bike or ATV, no one really bothers you. I've been seeing police, throughout the summer at traffic lights, crosswalks. A lot of times they just give me a thumbs up. They don't really care because it's not obnoxiously loud. So it's a great way for me to cruise around, enjoy the scenery, and not have to worry about being caught and or ticketed. All right, number 2 would be the weight of the bike. It's very lightweight compared to traditional gas-powered dirt bikes, and its small frame. I know Sur-ron's been making larger bikes that are just full-framed motorcycles, but I like the small framed. I used to ride 80 cc's when I was a kid, and then I had a 450 2-stroke, and that thing was like a horse, like a Clydesdale. I could barely even touch my feet on the ground, and it is kind of cool to have a big bike like that. But one of the perks I like is if I lose control of this thing, I can just stand up and let the bike go, and I don't have to worry about going down with the bike, which is not something you can do on big dirt bikes. Second thing about its size and weight is it's easy to transport. I have a bike carrier on the back of my Jeep, and I can just easily use the throttle and ride this thing right up onto the ramp because, again, it's just not that big and or heavy. Next thing I like about having it be lightweight is you can easily go over curbs or fallen branches if they're in the trails, where, if you had a 300-pound dirt bike, it's kind of a job to get it over obstacles, but with this, you can just pop it right over or lift it if you can't drive over it. And because it's a small frame, it's really easy to maneuver for me on the trails. I can, take a right really fast if I'd like and commit, or left. You don't have to worry about, am I gonna make it or not, because it's easy to maneuver in tight places. Next thing I love is the incredible battery life. Even on the stock battery, this is an upgraded Shy battery, 72 volt, 51 amp per hour battery, and I get about 100 miles per charge. I've never depleted this thing. I usually keep it between like a 20 and 80% charge because I know that's best for longevity of these batteries. But every time I take out this thing for a ride and ripping around town, I only use about maybe 8 to 10% or less. When I take my dogs out, I'm usually using like 4 to 5% battery life. And I found out that it's usually about 1% depletion per mile. So, it's just incredible. You hardly ever have to charge this thing. Now, I'd have to say number 4 would be the power. I'm a fairly big guy, about 230 pounds, 6 foot 4 inches tall. I upgraded to a KO motor, and again with this Shy battery and an upgraded controller, this thing just moves. I can go up steep hills without a problem, and I don't even have this thing at its full power potential. I think it only has about 15 kilowatts, and this can go up to 30 kilowatts, which is just insane. I can't imagine using even more than 15 kilowatts unless you're, racing on a dirt bike track. But I just like to putt around with this thing. But it's nice to know I can go up any obstacle, any hill, and not have to worry about burning out the motor or really stressing this thing out. I also like how you can tune this thing through the KO app on your phone. So, if you don't want full power, you don't have to have full power. You can switch and have different tunes on the bike. So if you have like a friend that wants to ride it, or your girlfriend or something like that, you can turn it way down so it's just not an absolute monster. That's something you can't do on gas-powered dirt bikes. They're just that's just how much power they have. There's no tuning, you know, instantly on a phone, which you can do with electric, which I think is awesome. Next, I would have to say is less maintenance than a traditional dirt bike. On a Sur-ron, you know, you don't have to worry about mixing oil and gas. If you have a 2-stroke or if you have a 4-stroke, you don't have to worry about having gas and or replacing your engine oil. You know, you still have to do, you know, like clean and lube your chain and check your brake pads and, you know, replace those once in a while. But there's just a lot less, I think, maintenance on an electric than a traditional dirt bike. Another cool perk that I didn't even realize till after I owned the bike is just how easy it is to start and go. You turn a key, give it about 1 second to calibrate, and then the thing is just ready to ride. Whereas on a dirt bike, you know, you would have to kick start it, and I always hated the location of the kick start. You'd always have to go underneath the peg, and I'd always hit my shin on the peg, and it would hurt, and it was just kind of a job to get it started, especially my 2-strokes. The next thing I would say is the appearance. I love the appearance of the bike. I think it looks kind of not necessarily like a dirt bike, but not necessarily like a mountain bike. It's kind of like right in the middle. I get a lot of people commenting when I'm driving have this thing on the back of my carrier. People are always pulling up at traffic lights asking what it is. And I like how you can just accessorize it to your liking. One of the things I was worried about before I purchased this was that it was just gonna feel too small, but luckily I found there's ways to make the swing arm move back. I put on this XL kit that moves everything back a couple inches, brings up the seat. I put larger wheels and tires, riser handlebars. I actually made a separate video on the mods that made this more accommodating for someone my size. I'll put a link below. But yeah, the amount of aftermarket parts available for these, another cool perk. Another little side perk, I love the regen braking. You can actually on the app decide how much regen braking you want it to have. So when you let off on the throttle, it's not only slowing your bike down, but recharging the battery. That's pretty cool. I can't say it recharges it a whole lot. I did a couple tests. There's this huge 2-mile hill by my house. That's a pretty steep grade, and I would just lay off the throttle, and I usually could charge about 3% in 2 miles of coasting. So not a whole lot, but it's still neat to know that you're rebuilding power every time you let off the throttle. Pretty cool. Or you could turn that feature off if that's not something that you'd like. All right, and last thing I'd have to say, I didn't even realize this till I called my insurance, but I have a house with house insurance, and this thing is covered. Usually titled vehicles like automobiles and dirt bikes that have to be registered aren't covered by house insurance. You have to have separate insurance through your auto or whoever you have your car insurance with. But with this, because it's not an actual registered vehicle or a titled vehicle with the state of Washington that I live in, this is covered by my house insurance. So if it gets stolen from my house, I'll get reimbursed. Even if it gets stolen at a park, or I ship this thing to Italy and it gets stolen in Italy, it's still covered by my house insurance, which I find interesting. I always thought things had to be stolen from your house for it to be covered by house insurance, but at least with mine, it doesn't matter where it's stolen from, it's covered. So that saves me a monthly bill from having to have this thing insured. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video on the top 10 things I love about my Sur-ron. Again, there's a lot more things that I love. I might make a longer video in the future, but those were the top 10 that I just really love about this bike. Again, I'm not hating on gas-powered dirt bikes. I've had many throughout my life, and I still want to get one in the future because I do think they have their place. But living in a city, this thing is really, really convenient. If there's something I didn't mention that you think is a cool perk of electric dirt bikes or the Sur-ron, please leave them in the comments below. I respond to all comments. Hope to see you in the next video.